Hi everybody. Hi everybody. It's your friend Daniel Hutchins. We're gonna try to whip out one more here. Um, well, probably my alarm is gonna go off probably during this one. But anyway, um, we're gonna catch you guys up on some Stephen King. Yes, some Stephen King. You know, the author Stephen King. Okay, John Lithgow, the actor, and his Stephen King adaptation still has many fans upset over one of the most major changes, and they return to Paramount Plus. This is hot off the truck from 20 minutes ago. Okay, new additions on the month of July and Paramount Plus have been revealed. One of those offerings is the new readaptation of the movie Pet Cemetery. So, if you know Stephen King's story, Pet Cemetery, this is the movie that was remade in 2019. This film also began to stream simultaneously on Paramount Plus on July the 1st, marking its return to the service after a long stretch in hiatus. Based on the popular Stephen King novel based in Pet Cemetery we know from 1983, again, it has some real big names. Um, like the story in the book and the novel written by Stephen King, the movie also tells the story of a grieving father who we know buries his dead kid in the mysterious graveyard that's capable of resurrecting the dead. Unfortunately, soon enough he learns that sometimes being dead can be better, as those who come back from the past or from the pet cemetery are not quite the same people they were before. So, those who've actually read the book or the novel, like myself, will happen to know that the original story is when his young son gets struck and killed by a truck before getting buried in the graveyard, hence the pet cemetery. The remake has subverted expectation by switching the victim to the older sister instead of the son. So then, this was a new way to approach the material in a different way than what the novel was intended in 1983. Because remember, the book was written in 1983. Before the multiple version and reboots and remakes and sequels of the Pet Cemetery that already have existed, however, it still led to a lot of it has led to a lot of people who weren't happy. And with the change, feeling that resurrection was such an integral part of the story. Pet Cemetery is the second adaptation of the Stephen King book. Okay, they made a second one, okay? This is what we're kind of talking about. So Pet Cemetery was first made as a feature film, again, by a director. So, okay, sorry about that. But, yeah, Pet Cemetery was first made as a movie by director Mary Lambert back in 1989. Conversely, this film became less popular with the fans, regarded as many as one of the best movies by Stephen King. Because his books, again, also say about the Pet Cemetery. So, it's easily known as, sometimes it's known as one of the more forgettable ones. But, again, that is, completely false. So, um, so then that performance, again, in the creepiest form of era of horror films and genre, that further established making the, the resurrected kid who later again made the sequel, Pet Cemetery 2, though the movie wouldn't reach the same level of hype or success. Again, the old song, Don't Believe the Hype. Okay. The 2019 movie does not hold up as well as the sequel, though it had a prequel. And so, this is basically barking new territory for their franchise. Again, there was another Pet Cemetery in 2023 called Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. This dives into the history of the famous graveyard, set 50 years before the events of the 2019 one, where it follows a bunch of young and it remains to be seen if any additional films or series in this franchise will get made. Um, More Pet Cemetery films might be on the way. Okay? Disclaimer. Despite largely negative reviews on Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, this franchise appears to have just as many lives as the fuzzy subjects. So, leading up to the prequel and their release, director Lindsay Anderson Beer has then expressed her interest in diving deeper in the franchise mythology and more films. In conversation with SFX magazine, she has offered a few ideas and pitches as to where she wants to see the Pet Cemetery movies go next. So, you can do as many movies within the Pet Cemetery universe and peel back the onion more and more and show more and more of this evil really comes from. But certainly has a lot of versions of a very sensitive origin in her head. Her comment would further suggest that she's interested in exploring more of the prequel set before the original, though she doesn't confirm whether it is production of any specific project in this interview. However, she has later confirmed in a later interview that various creatives are hard at work developing the next installment of the Pet Cemetery. Unfortunately, there has been no additional news for several years, suggesting that these projects might never come to fruition. Still, fans of Pet Cemetery should not lose hope because the franchise has been rebooted once, and it could be rebooted again. So the filmmaker and director might be interested in doing just that. In 2021, 2 years after Pet Semetary's reboot in 2019, we had an iconic director, Guillermo del Toro. He had a desire to bring his own take of the story to life. He cited, again, the personal connection he had to Stephen King in his book, Pet Sematary. But again, remember, he listed that as one of the very few stories that scared him as a kid, and it has still affects him profoundly as an adult. You can also check out what Del Toro said below here on Comic Book Resources. So, he says, you know the novel that I would have killed to adapt, and I know there's two versions of that. I still think maybe in a deranged way or deranged universe, I get to do that again one day in this Pet Cemetery, because it's not only just the very best final couple of lines that scares me when I was a young man and now a father. I understand it better now than I ever had. It scares me 100 times more. So, okay. So, again, his desire to make a Pet Cemetery movie, or his adaptation, is just wishful thinking. And for now, especially so close to the most recent one, however, with enough time, Del Toro can actually get his chance to make his story happen. Or we should hope to make it happen. Pet Sematary is now streaming again on Paramount Plus. Also, the prequel, The Pet Sematary Bloodlines, is also available on Paramount Plus. And again, until next time, I see you next time on the Huts.